Hi, I'm Mica Sims. Thank you for joining me. I write for MicaSims.com, and today I'm joined by Mat Lockett, 6th District candidate for Kentucky. Thank you for joining me.
Very nice to be here.
Ask you a couple questions. First, why have you decided to run for this district?
Because it's time for a change. It's certainly time for someone different in this office. We've got a representative that, in my opinion, in my view, does not actually represent the people that he was elected to do so. Someone that votes 95% with Nancy Pelosi, and it's time that we get someone in that actually represents our views, our conservative views in Central Kentucky, and so that's why I'm running.
There is a lot of crisis that the president is up against right now. What is the one thing that you think that America is facing that it would be your #1 priority if we sent you to Washington?
I think right now would be the debt. We've got a debt load of almost $12 trillion, and all Congress does is vote to keep raising that, raise it higher. And it's unsustainable. We're on a collision course with extreme catastrophe. And we have got to get a handle on the debt. We've got to, #1, stop spending. It's got to be cut off. But #2, we've got to find solutions to get that debt down, because if we don't, it will choke us. It will choke us. Unemployment is another one. Extremely high, just even here in the state, over 11% unemployment rate. We've got to create ways for jobs.
A lot of people say that they have spent the money to create jobs. What do you say about that if our debt is...
I would just say show it. There's no evidence to that. The president says that, and he says, well, I spent this much on the bailout and this much on this. All the unemployment numbers keep going up. So if we spent it, then we didn't spend it very wisely. And so if we're going to spend money, it's got to be spent wisely. But I say just stop. Stop spending on things that aren't going to work, that we know that aren't going to work. You take the state of Kentucky that used our stimulus money to plug the budget, the holes in the budget. How is that going to help anything? It doesn't. And so we've got to have common sense in Washington. I think everybody would agree that we are lacking some severe common sense in Washington, and that's what I actually want to bring to the table and restore.
You mentioned the bailouts. If you had been a seated representative during the bailout vote, how would you have voted?
Absolutely not. I believe firmly that we should not be bailing out any company, private companies. I would have certainly voted against it.
And that would have been going against your party. There was a lot of Republicans that actually voted.
There certainly were. And now look what they're doing. Some of them are backtracking and saying, oh, well, we probably shouldn't have voted against it. Well, if we had people there at the time that, again, had some common sense and could take a look and stand up for themselves rather than vote what the party told them to vote, we might not be where we are now.
You mentioned creating jobs, especially in Kentucky. What's one thing that you would do to create jobs in Kentucky?
We've got to cut taxes. We have to cut the business taxes. We've got taxes now on businesses, and we see all the time, businesses closing down, either going overseas or just totally closing up completely because of the tax burden that we have placed on them as a government. And so what happens to that? It gets passed down. So either they can hire less employees because of the tax burden. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but I think cutting taxes is probably the biggest and the most, immediate fix to that.
This past summer, there was a cap-and-trade bill that was passed the House and is currently in the Senate. If you had been seated during that time, how would you have voted on cap-and-trade?
This is such an easy question. Thank you for this one. Cap-and-trade to me is a big debacle. It's beyond me how a representative, quote unquote, a representative from this state can actually vote against this state in voting for cap-and-trade. I would have obviously voted against it for several reasons. One, I don't think it will actually reduce carbon. Two, the way that it goes about it in trading carbon credits doesn't make any sense. All the other places in Europe that it was tried, it hasn't worked. But even the third thing, and probably the biggest, is it would put the coal companies almost out of business, if not completely out of business. Our power comes from coal. We cannot do something like that to our state, to our entire economy, that will crush this state. It just doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of other solutions that we can do, that we should do, but the cap and trade bill is not one of them.
Well, some of the proponents of the cap and trade bill have actually said that will promote better environment for the U.S. How do you feel about that?
That the cap and trade bill would? I think the important thing is, obviously, we have got to take care of God's creation. I don't think anybody would debate that. Obviously, I think we've got to do what we can do to do that. Will cap and trade do that? I don't think so. Are there ways that we can clean up what we have in terms of clean coal technology? Yeah, absolutely, and we've got to pursue those and actually do what we can to make that happen. So I would certainly argue that point with them.
Matt, you've been quoted that you are pro-life. What is your stance on the women's choice, Roe versus Wade?
I think it was incorrectly decided. I don't feel like that the Supreme Court in 1973 made that right decision constitutionally. I do not feel like that it is a woman's right to choose to take the life of a baby within her. I don't feel like it's a woman's right to do that. I feel like that life absolutely begins at conception. And if we are going to stick with that definition, then we cannot pick and choose and say at this particular week it's okay, at this particular week it's not. So from conception, I believe that that's when life begins. And so I believe the Constitution protects that from actually from that particular moment of life. And so I think it's very important that we as a country do what we can do and elect people that we know that are going to stand up for that right to life.
So would you be in favor of overturning Roe versus Wade?
I would be in favor of it, yes, absolutely.
Of overturning and giving
Of
it
overturning
to the
it,
states?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yesterday there was a rally at the Capitol for state sovereignty, a bill that Representative Stanley is pushing through, and you were in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thoughts on state sovereignty?
I think state sovereignty is something that we really need to take a look at. It's a very important issue. It's a state issue. It's something that I believe that people are excited about at this point in time. And I think if you follow kind of the arguments for and against, there's a lot of people that would say I'm for it, to reaffirm to the government where we are as a state, that yes, according to the 10th Amendment, we are sovereign. There's also a lot of people that would say, something different, that it carries a lot more weight in terms of things that could happen because of that, whether it be funding, whether it be whatever. So there's certainly two sides to that coin. I in terms of affirming our sovereignty to the federal government, I would be in favor of that, to say that yes, we understand the limits set forth on the federal government by the Constitution, and we're just saying that we know that that's there, just kind of to remind the federal government that we are a sovereign state.